Hey everybody, Vincent here. Before we start the video and the list, I just want to give you a heads up. We shot this back a couple weeks ago, and I just got around to editing it now. I just finished it. It's 3 a.m. But I just wanted to make a note that this was made before the passing of MF Doom, who has, not to spoil anything, but has a couple tracks on here for the features he did in 2020, and I just wanted to make a note just to tribute an icon and an absolute legend that MF Doom was, putting out some of the best hip hop albums of all time, whether it's with Madlib on Mad Villainy or his own on Food, Operation Doomsday. Amazing work. I can't. He's such a fundamental face in hip hop, and especially on the underground, that I had to mention him. I had to at least put a little intro at the beginning of this video, just talking about him for a second. Without any further ado, let's get straight into the list.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show. I'm your host Trevor, aka the big boy of 2020, and I'm with my ever-attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, my droog, Vincent.
The next Fred movie should be called Whole Lot of Fred.
There you go. And it's list week. Or, actually, I can't say that because that's a copyrighted term. It's list 7 days. It's
funny.
list episode.
We don't even have 7 days of list. We have 2 days of list because we don't want to go over bad stuff this year. Because this year's been bad enough.
No, we're gonna make a good video about that. We got something in the pipeline coming.
Yeah, we don't have a yellow flannel. We have traditional Japanese cat shirt.
Today we're gonna be going through our top 65 songs of the year. That's kind of a weird number, but we just can't let anything go. we can't let it go that there were so many good songs this year. So we won't waste too much time talking about why we chose 65. Let's just get into it. Without further ado, number 65, we got LaRue's Automatic Driver, the Tyler the Creator remix.
Yeah, just a perfect remix. Like, this initial song was very bland pop track, and then Tyler comes in and just revamps it into something magical, kind of almost vaporwave-esque in the way the vocals are pitched down. I think it just works perfectly.
Mm-hmm. At number 64, we got Yasmin Lacey's Morning Matters.
Marshall Matters. 2. Morning Matters is essentially just a continuation of a lot of the ideas Yasmin was dealing with her last EP, and this time it's a very calm, serene, very morning-like track, very sunny, bright. It almost burns that touch a little bit because it is so warm. I just think it's a amazing jazz and R&B track.
Yeah. At number 63, we got Megan Thee Stallion's Savage remix. That song really blew up on TikTok. The dance is really fun if you can actually do it. But yeah, I think Megan Thee Stallion is one of these leading ladies in hip-hop that's kind of making her way through the ranks. But by adding Beyonce onto her remix of this really fun and confident Savage track from her last project, didn't that come out last year, I believe?
No, Savage came out this year.
That's right. Yeah,
it was EP.
Correct. Yeah, that seems like a lifetime ago. Anyway, by adding Beyonce, one of the queen of pop and one of the hugest voices in the pop scene, I think this really validates Megan Thee Stallion's career and just makes for a really fun remix here.
Yeah.
At number 62, we got Wilma Archer's Last Sniff featuring the legendary MF Doom. This track came out of absolutely nowhere. Wilma Archer, who's previously worked with Vitra on the Bird project, which I think we both have been listening to a lot this year.
Yeah.
Doom just adds a lot of life to this overall. It feels like very classical and jazz-oriented instrumental.
It makes me think of a noir film.
Yeah, a little bit. And Doom just adds this really slick rap verse over the top of it. And I love this breakdown right in the middle of just purely instrumental, adding in the electric guitar and then cutting out and letting Doom join back in. Just an incredible track, really.
Yeah, number 61, we got Against All Logic with Fantasy, the best cut off
Mariah Carey's album.
Actually, the ODB remix is better.
It is.
ODB just lists up Japan's in the house. He says it about 5 times because he wants you to know Japan is in the house. Fantasy off Against the Logic's latest album, Nicholas Starr's last album. It's just a great sentiment of what made a lot of the tracks on his previous record 2012-2017 so incredible. A lot of great vocal samples and mix of electronic instrumentation, just like the perfect blend between house and plunderphonics.
Yeah, number 60, we've got Disclosure's My High featuring Aminé and Slow Tie. This is just such a fun track. I haven't heard a lot of Disclosure since that Latch remix that he did with Sam Smith. But this song I just find to be such a fun, like, breakbeat kind of song. Aminé's verses are really fun, and Slow Ties I just find to be iconic. Slow Tie really killed it on the guest verses this year. Just a really fun track, very hype, and very fast pace.
Number 59, we have Dirty Projectors with Overlord, a track that just essentially goes over the upcoming of a fascist dictator in such a woodsy, folky way.
At number 58, we've got Kid Cudi with Tequila Shots. This is the, I guess, lead single off of Man on the Moon 3, The Chosen One. Arguably the best track on here, one of the best tracks on here. Kid Cudi just delivers a really excellent melody and melodic performance here on Tequila Shots. I just love that hook. It gets stuck in my head all the time. And Cudi's performance is just how I remember it, really. He does an incredible continuation of, I feel, his performances on the Kids See Ghost record.
Yeah, it's also a continuation of some of the ideas that span across the record of how he's dealing with his mental illness and how he's kind of adapting to it and how it's something he's going to have to live with over the course of his life, and I really enjoyed the sentiment of that track. Number 57, we have Dixie Chicks with Gaslighter, a track Trevor really didn't want me to put on here, but I really enjoyed this track.
I really didn't care. Just like to make jokes about it.
Yeah, this is essentially all about the Dixie Chicks being gaslighted over and over again by this one dude. And
it's George W. Bush.
It's George W. Bush. This is George Bush's America, is this track. Number 56, we got Dan Deacon with Become a Mountain. Fantastic piano-fronted indie-tronic track that builds up and escalates, and Dan Deacon finally becomes a mountain. He becomes Mount Rushmore. That is Dan Deacon.
But all four of them are Dan Deacon. Number 55, Mario Judah's Be Ya. The only thing more legendary about this track is the story of how it even came to be. Basically, Mario Judah gave Playboi Carti an ultimatum to release Whole Lotta Red by whatever night this was, like within 24 hours, and he didn't. So Mario Judah dropped a single of Playboi Carti's Whole Lot of Red. Be Ya is the result. I love Mario Judah's ability to perfectly emulate a Carti track. He does such a good job with the baby voice over this like very electronic, almost like cell phone type beat. And then, like, as he goes on, he just devolves into doing Looney Tunes impressions over this track. I love this track. I love Mario Judah so far. He's such a fun villain in the hip-hop game right now.
Yeah, he is not Mario. He's Bowser Palestinian. At 54, we got Dougie Poole with Vaping on the Job. Dougie Poole was essentially made a name of making these kind of, like, modernistic country verses or country songwriting where it's like very like, I hate to say liberal-esque, but it's very like, it relates to that kind of like almost liberal arts student type of mind I have, I guess, where it's just very modern and depressing and heartbreaking and backbreaking. But this track is essentially about a bunch of people who got BFAs and now they're just doing work for, they got like their CDL, their commercial driver's license. Now they're just doing truck work. They're just depressed, so they're vaping on the job to like cure their ills and find something to cope.
At number 53, we got Viagra Boys. Ain't Nice.
This track is just insanity. It's brassy. It's bold. It's essentially the post-punk sound that Viagra Boys set up on their last record, but now it's finally coming to fruition with just absolute insanity. And he's trying to find some place to put all of his stuff, and he wants to put it at your place. But I don't think all of his stuff will fit.
No.
Number 52, we have Everything Is Recorded with 3:15 a.m. / Caviar featuring Infinite Coles and Ghostface Killah.
This is such a fun, like, club-esque track. The whole concept of Friday Forever from Everything Is Recorded is is a great idea in and of itself, but this track falls like right at the 3:15 a.m. mark. You see it here. They're at like some really late night kind of bougie club, eating caviar and drinking champagne. The pairing of father and son here, Ghostface Killah and Infinite Coles, it's such a fun dynamic to watch. I had no idea that they were even related until I read some of the notes on this, but they're just trading off verses over this really interesting, like, synth-driven beat with some really questionable vocal samples. Yeah. I really enjoy this track. Yes.
That's the sample.
Yes. It's just a very, like, glittery and glamorous kind of track here.
Yeah, 51, we have Clipping with Check the Lock. While the album name comes from a Ghetto Boys song,
Mind's
Mind Playing Tricks on Me. This track kind of emulates the paranoia of that track in a form. This track's essentially about a crime boss that owns the city being super paranoid around any turn. There's someone that's trying to off him, and he's checking the lock to make sure no one's coming in, no one's doing anything. He's making sure everything is where he left it, and there's nothing out of place. Just a very paranoid and very grim track off this avant horrorcore album.
Yeah. At number 50, we got Black Thought's Good Morning, featuring Pusha T, Swizz Beatz, and Killer Mike. This is just an excellent lineup here. Black Thought, this is probably the best thought off of the new Black Thought project, where this catchy hook that I just sang a second ago just permeates throughout the entire track. Pusha and Killer Mike and Swizz's verses are all right on point. I just love to hear this, like, kind of old and new pairing here. Swizz has been around for a while, and Pusha and Killer Mike are kind of some of these newer
old heads, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's just fun to see them all in one place, really.
Yeah. Next we got Bishop Nehru at 49 with Meathead featuring MF Doom.
This feels like an old Doom track, really.
This is just a cut-off food.
Yeah, basically.
It's literally...
Basically, yeah. Doom's got a super biting verse right at the beginning, followed by a much longer Bishop Nehru feature here. Just ton of fun. The background here, the instrumental, sounds like an old superhero movie or like a comic sample. If you've listened to Doom, you know the type. It just sounds like classic Doom through and through. And Bishop Nehru, I think, longtime collaborator of Doom, is the perfect one to kind of carry the torch of that sound from now on.
Yeah. 48, we have Ariana Grande with Positions. Just a fantastic pop track, like literally through and through. I think she does a fantastic job of just stylistically maturing in a sense and getting to this point where her music's really catching and the lyricism isn't really taking away. This and 34 and 35 are tracks that I would put in this spot, just because I think I like them equally, but Positions a little bit more perfect in my opinion, so I have to go with that one.
Mm-hmm. At number 47, we got Chris Stapleton's You Should Probably Leave.
One of the more warmer tracks off his last album, essentially how this girl Chris Stapleton's with probably should leave before they both end up with heartbreak. I think Chris Stapleton is essentially just perfectly perfecting this very minimal and warm and saturated sound to a certain extent, getting the most out of kind of nothing except for his personality and voice, and finding little things to complement it here and there, and I think that's the perfect example of what he's moving with in the future.
Mm-hmm. Just great storytelling through and through, really.
Yeah.
At number 46, we got Childish Gambino's 1238, featuring 21 Savage, Inc., and Kaja Bonet. This was such a surprising track when I first heard it. It's about 6 or 7 minutes, and before there were any features listed, the 21 Savage feature took me completely by surprise. This is such a slow burn track with Gambino telling the story over like pretty scarce instrumentation about how he like meets this girl and they're doing shrooms and the cat's looking at him weird, like just meandering through this.
Her
like
cat's looking at him weird.
Yeah,
like certain cat. Not this one that's on my shirt.
Yeah, it's just this very like meandering story. He's not really like saying anything, but the story itself is interesting because of the position that he's in. Followed by this out of nowhere 21 Savage feature that I remember my jaw just dropped when I first heard that. And Ink and Kajavone both do an excellent job with vocals at the end, as well as some more mixing effects. This song just perfectly evolves over the course of its runtime and makes it seem so much shorter than it actually is.
Yeah, the 21 Savage bar, I made myself a boss without crack, I think is one of the better bars this year. One of my favorites, personal favorites. Number 45, we have Zeal and Ardor with Vigil, a response to Black Lives Matter, George Floyd. It's essentially I think the pinnacle of the sound so far, just perfectly blending black metal and spirituals, this perfect blend. It's super political, it's super in your face, but it's very emotional and draws itself off, and there's almost a beauty to the pain and suffering being shown. Very open track. I really like it.
Number 44, we got East Tumor, Gospel for a New Century. This song got recommended to me probably 95 times over the course of the year.
Yeah, Spotify likes playing the song for me a lot after I finish something. It's like, we'll get into a couple other tracks that were like that this year, but this was like the third in that long lineup. Super brassy, love the horns on it. It feels interdimensionally. It's the best example of the style East Tumor's going for, because it's something kind of like out of this realm in a sense. It's not super like spacey or anything like that, but it's just like off, if that makes sense. It's dark. It has this like bright characteristics and strings that come into it, but there's this thick bass line to it as well. I just think it's an amazing track.
Yeah, at number 43, we have Open Mike Eagles, I'm a Joestar, Black Power Fantasy. This was the first single off of Anime, Trauma, and Divorce, where Mike just kind of talks about being a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character. How these guys are so powerful and have such high, I guess, power levels and crazy stories and bizarre abilities, and how he wishes in his Black Power fantasy that he was an anime character. This obviously had a lot of kind of comfort for him across the story of his divorce and the trauma that he has endured over the past year or so. But I just think that this is just an excellent track where he's talking about all sorts of crazy like anime stuff. He's not afraid to nerd out.
Yeah. And number 42, we have Flume with The Difference featuring Tori Ma. I just think this is like just an incredible inclination of the kind of... it's a credible inclination of kind of how Flume can build a track to escalate in such a fashion, and Tori Ma on the verse, I think, adds more depth than if it was just Flume alone.
Yeah, it's just a fun, catchy pop track this year. I think the Apple commercial that it was featured in really boosted its airplay and listening times. But yeah, I just found this to be such an addictive pop track this year. At number 41, we got Freddie Gibbs, Something to Rap About, featuring Tyler, the Creator, the second Tyler, the Creator feature here on the list.
This is one of the songs Spotify decided it wanted to play me so much this year after I finished anything else. It's like, you're going to listen to this. I'm like,
yes.
No. I like this track, but like not this much. Freddie Gibbs is basically talking about all the things he's done in his life, all of his run-ins with drugs or... crime has basically led him on a route to have something to rap about. And then Tyler Creator's essentially doing this post-Igor victory lap in a sense. He's talking about a boat he hasn't bought yet and how it's like the production of the track. I just think it showcases two different styles. Freddie Gibbs is very kind of menacing in a certain extent, while Tyler Creator is just kind of like frolicking. But
yes,
they both take these beat from The Alchemist and turn it into something different, which is nice.
Yeah. At number 40, we have Denzel Curry and Kenny Beats, My Meat Diet.
This is just kind of a super glitchy and insane hip-hop track that shares off the versatility of both Denzel and Kenny. I didn't know Kenny had the production chops as much as he did, because this whole entire album is very versatile, and this is probably the quintessential example of that.
Yeah, at number 39, we have Phoebe Bridgers with Kyoto. This is probably one of the most upbeat tracks off of her latest album, Punisher. I just find the storytelling here and the indie rock sound to be so perfect and so gentle yet invigorating sounds that I've heard this year, if that makes sense. I really love this track and her storytelling ability on here. Makes me want to go to Japan.
Yeah. Well, not everything she's talking about here is upbeat or bright, which is kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
I think that the sound invigorates that emotion. It's one of her most distinct tracks off her last record.
Yes.
38, we got a surprise. A.K. Paul, the brother of Jai Paul, with Be Honest. I saw Trevor was listening to the song one day, and I checked it out on Spotify, and I was very surprised, very Phil Collins asking away.
Yes.
But with kind of the emotion that Jai Paul brought to some of probably his biggest track, BTS to You. Yeah, I think this is just a great minimal kind of rubbery track in a sense. It feels very, not rubbery, plastic, very plastic like track. Doesn't feel real, artificial.
Yeah. That was the word I was about to use, is artificial here. A.K. Paul, I just find to be so much more consistent than Jai Paul, to be completely honest with everybody here. But Be Honest, I just find to be one of the most catchy tracks of the year. I love this very scarce instrumentation with A.K. Paul's very sultry vocals over the top of it. I also love that electric guitar solo right in the middle of it. I don't know why it fits, but it does. It's just such a fun, slow burn kind of track here.
Yeah, 37, we have Chloe X Halle. It might be Chloe and Haley, but it's Chloe X Halle, Tournament Edition.
That's one person.
One person. With Do It, Chloe and Haley should thank TikTok for their lives at this point, because I would have never gave any more of their music a listen, because before I found their music to be kind of lame, and this song came out, kind of changed the course, and I listened to the album and I enjoyed that too. So I don't know, a cosign for Beyonce didn't mean as much as this big single on TikTok, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, I saw Chloe and Haley at the Beyonce Jay-Z concert probably 2 years ago, before they were big. They were just signed as an opening act here, and their music was really, really lame. It did not catch my ear whatsoever, and I really didn't give them a second thought until I saw Do It trending so hard on TikTok. Ungodly Hour is such a fun pop album, and this is just, I think, one of the best pop tracks of the year, really.
Yeah.
At 36, we have Aminé with Shimmy. This song takes directly from ODB's Shimmy Shimmy Ya track. I love this track. It is so hard. Aminé shows off such a more in your face and gruff personality than he has in the past. It's really hard to believe how much he's evolved from Caroline to where we are now in his music. But Shimmy is just such a hard-hitting track. It came out right at the beginning where he's talking about how 2020 is going to be his year, and then it completely is not his
anyone's year.
No, it completely just went down the drain so fast. But that doesn't stop this from just being a really fun, in-your-face track with such a great inspiration, too. I love the ODB vocal samples used here.
Yeah. Next we got 35, Oro Swimming Hour with Cold Tangerina. I love this track. I listened to this track a ton this year. We interviewed Oro Swimming Hour earlier this year. But this track, the first time I listened to it when I found it on Bandcamp, I was just in love. It's essentially just this lo-fi indie track about an orange juice contest. Not a lot of it makes sense, but that's kind of the charm. That's kind of the whole entire premise of Oro Swimming Hour, is making childlike music. And I absolutely love it. So mythical, just naturalistic, and fun. It just, any aspect you would give to a kid's imagination, I think you can apply to this Cold Tangerina track.
Yeah, their music is very whimsical. I think the idea of an orange juice contest is such a funny concept. At number 34, we have Michael Christmas, I Heard. It's such a fun track, very inspired by Carmen Sandiego type. Michael
just
Christmas,
the album art.
Yeah, basically. Michael Christmas hasn't been around for too long, so there's really not a whole lot of rumors coming out about him. But I love this idea that he's standing on a corner somewhere, and people don't know it's Michael Christmas, and they're like talking about him, and he's just like perpetuating these rumors. Like everybody's like trying to one up each other about all these different rumors that they've heard about Michael Christmas, and he puts it into a rap song. It's such a fun and endearing track. I would give it a listen. Michael Christmas is not getting the hype that he deserves, I think.
At number 33, we have Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion with WAP, Wet Ass Pussy. This is such a fucking hilarious track. Like, there's just so much charisma. The instrumental with the there's some hoes in this house sample is hilarious. Just Cardi B, when she came on the scene with Bodak Yellow a couple years ago, I didn't get it. I really didn't. I still really don't get the appeal of that track. But this, I completely understand. Like, this, she is so charismatic. She's so on fire. She's a complete badass. Megan Thee Stallion is just completely bouncy with her verse. Very Juicy J-like, which is very fitting because Juicy J produced some of the tracks on her last album. And I could tell because every track he did production for, there was a Logic introduction,
yes.
which is great. But yeah, this track is absolutely incredible. Just bar for bar, just hilarious. Just the references they're making. I want you to park this big Mack truck right in this little garage. Macaroni in the pot. That's some wet ass pussy. Just, it's hilarious. I don't know. It's amazing. Some people think it's controversial. I just think it's amazingly funny.
No, I think it's so funny that people do think it's controversial. Like, I feel like this track was made specifically to make old people mad.
Now, like, it's just made to make Ben Shapiro mad.
Yes. Now, I will say this. I don't think Cardi B, I still don't get her music. I, still don't really understand the appeal beyond this track, and I think this might have been, lightning in a bottle for her. I'm not sure that it'll go anywhere with the rest of her career, and I'm not sure I'll like her anymore, but this track is such a perfect example of what she's capable of. At number 32, we got JPEG Mafia with Bald!
This was my most listened to song on Spotify because Spotify wanted to play it to me all the time, which I don't think it's a JPEG giving Spotify money thing, or I think he's working with some label because his last EP was distributed by someone, but I don't think I think it's just the algorithm's fucked up.
Yeah, I think it falls directly into that algorithm. Same with Something to Rap About and Gospel for a New Century. I think it's just oh, hey, you haven't explicitly put a heart next to this song, so I think that you might want to listen to it every time because I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I listen to this song a lot because Spotify would force me to listen to it. I really liked the song when it first came out. I still really enjoy it, but I just need a break from it. But Spotify, even as of yesterday, will not give me a break from this song. No. I just think it's JPEG Mafia is his most characteristic yet. It reminds me, the production is over, reminds me a lot of that track he did with Flume, How to Build a Relationship. It's more dynamic, more electronic than he's usually over. Escalates a little bit faster and quicker than he's more normally over, and I just think it's the most fun and interesting track he put out all year.
Mm-hmm. At number 31, we have Spillage Village with Baptized, featuring anybody from Atlanta under the sun. Spillage Village put out a really just great album this year, and Baptized is one of the lead singles that really made me understand what Spillage Village was about. Such a fun, dark track. I love these Survivor theme song-esque vocal samples across the hook here. Let's get baptized. I love that. I just love the bite that each artist brings to the table here.
Yeah, this track just shows how much chemistry Earth Gang and JID have. That's impeccable, and that's kind of one of the reasons it made the album so good. It's just because their fundamental building on those three original members kind of escalated on to everyone else, which was really nice.
Yeah.
At number 30, we have Action Bronson with Latin Grammys. Action Bronson. If you haven't seen the music video for this track, it's one of my favorites of the year.
Yes.
Action Bronson is deep faked onto this strongman competition, and it's just absolutely hilarious. But this track just I don't know. This is like one of the perfect Action Bronson tracks because it just gets to what I want. Has a vintage sound, has a nice horn sample to it. Action Bronson's funny. He's just goofy and balls to the wall, but also tough and a bit brittle, which is nice. How him saying "Suplex City, bitch" over and over on the hook is great. But yeah, Action Bronson it's all I want from his character at this point is on this track.
It is incredible. Such a short, like, this little bite size of Action Bronson. It's got such a fun, Latino kind of sound on here, Latin American sound, with these horn samples and the grooving bass line. Action Bronson's hook is absolutely hilarious. He's got some great one-liners all about wrestling and food and everything that you'd expect from him. One of my favorite lines is, "Don't make me hit you with the Diddy dance." I love that visual that comes with that. Just an incredible track. I listened to this crap ton over the last year. Amazing.
Yeah. At number 29, we have Busta Rhymes with "Look Over Your Shoulder" featuring Kendrick Lamar. We talked about this on Album Crowd recently, or a month or two ago, but Kendrick Lamar has the legend spot on this Busta Rhymes track. Which is weird because ODB's also on that album, and who else? Mariah Carey, but Kendrick Lamar's the legend spot. Yeah, these two work amazingly well together. The instrumental with the Jackson 5 sample is incredible. I just think Busta Rhymes comes through rough, rigged like he normally does, but he's just so charismatic and bold, and this is what I want from Busta Rhymes, the style of just it's cutesy, but also at the same time, like, there's humanity to this rough character. It's not full Busta Rhymes like on a West Side Gun track where he's like just oozing out of his mouth.
He sounds like bit by a raccoon outside. He's got rabies.
He just sounds like he needs like some cold medicine. It's not like that, but I just think these two pair up amazingly well. It's the first like full of note Kendrick feature we've had in a while, and I think it's very well deserved to be on this track, and I think he doesn't waste his spotlight for Busta Rhymes on here. It's well deserved. Speaking of spotlight, at number 28 we have Jessie Ware with Spotlight. Amazingly hypnotic disco track. I can't say that enough. It does feel like you're being shined with a huge spotlight on you. It is a terrific dance track. Jessie Ware brings her best performance on that album in the opening track, and I think this track is absolutely incredible. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah. At number 27, we have Polo G with "Wishing for a Hero" featuring BJ the Chicago Kid, who only talks about Chicago. I just love this evolution of the track, The Way It Is, by Bruce Hornsby and The Range. It basically perfectly showcases the world as Bruce Hornsby sees it, the injustice in the world with the homelessness problem and the divide between the younger and older generations with The Way It Is, but just kind of saying, like, there's nothing really you can do about it. Like, you just have to go on and do your best as a person. That song was then sampled by Tupac with "Changes," where he talks about, from his perspective, life back in the 90s, like how that song still kind of rang true within his community. And then Polo G taking it to the next logical level, wishing for a hero, wishing for somebody to save America and save the human race. Samples that again. It's very much so similar to the track "Changes," but Polo G just talking about like his time in the present day as a black man in America. Just an incredibly potent track over this amazing sample. Like, I love the source material to death. Just the shining moment off of Polo G's latest album.
Yeah, it's way better than the second best track, "Go Stupid."
Yes.
way more.
Look at the divide here.
Way more content there wise, lyrical content. "Go Stupid," amazing track. Could have been on this list somewhere, but "Wishing for a Hero," far superior.
Yes. At number 26, we have Kali Uchis with "Aquí Yo Mando," featuring Rico Nasty.
Absolute banger. It's just, these two pair up so well. They're so cold, calculated. They're both badasses. Rico Nasty speaking Spanish is something I didn't know I needed until now. They fit so well. Like, I didn't think this pairing on paper didn't make that much sense, because they're two different vibes. But Caliushas really brings out the venom here, and it really, really works. It's one of the more distinctly different moments on our last album, one of the bigger bangers and momentous moments on our last album, and hard-hitting tracks, but I think it works out superior. These two really blend so incredibly, and it's amazing.
At number 25, we have Rap Ferreira with Leaving Hell. This is the lead single off of Purple Moonlight Pages, and I just find this to be such a departure from what Milo, aka, or formerly known as Milo, Rap Ferreira, has been doing in the past. I feel like this track is not pretentious, it's not self-indulgent, it's just Rap Ferreira wishing he could find a way to break out of like the doldrums of life, I guess. And he finally finds it in like written on the side of a bathroom stall. It's just an incredible sample here. I love to hear Milo sing. It's not something that we get to hear often enough, but he's actually, pretty decent. Just a really fun track that spotlights the evolution of Rap Ferreira's character from his Milo days and his Scallops Hotel days until now.
Yeah. Very Odyssey-like. Feels like he's traveling on a journey. The music video emphasizes that with the animation, which I think is incredible, which is another music video I suggest you listen to. But at number 24, we have Idols with Model Village. Trevor's... Anytime we talk about Oro Swimming Hour, he mentions how British that track, or how British Jam is. Model Village is one of the most British tracks I've ever heard in my entire life.
It really is. I can't think of anything else, but Untitled Goose Game. After I made that tweet, we put that tweet up on the screen, please. I love the idea of this model, like, people thinking that they live in like the perfect village, they live in the perfect little society, nothing bad ever happens in their little town, yet idols are like busting into people's houses and telling them that they're racist, that they like don't have good values. It's such a great image for me to have in my mind while you listen to this. So hard hitting, so like classically punk, with just a great guitar riff and great melody across the entire thing. Model Village is such a great standout track here.
Yeah. At number 23, we have Thundercat with Dragon Ball Do-Rag. It's Thundercat talking about his new do-rag and how it makes him feel, and nothing's better. This one also has a hilarious music video where he's trying to seduce Caliushis and Haim. It's just really funny. I don't know. Like, Thundercat draws the line where it's very soulful and believable, but what he's talking about is completely goofy. But you don't care that it's goofy. Like, the key factor to this track isn't like the content lyrically, it's more the performance from Thundercat. It's the line he draws between the two that's important. And it's such a soulful and brilliant performance from Thundercat. The bass on it's always incredible because it's Thundercat. But yeah, I love this track to death.
No, it is so much fun. And I've got to give a shout out also to the remix with Smeeto and Guapdad 4000. Yeah. They completely match that goofiness that Thundercat's thrown out there. The one part where Guapdad is like, she put my do-rag back on when it fell off, and he goes, thank you. It's such a funny line. It's a real shame that this whole album wasn't mixed better, because Thundercat still shows that he is a king as far as bass playing and like making a great melody goes. There's so many great tracks on this album, but the mixing is just kills it.
Yeah. At number 22, we have the Strokes with At the Door. The Strokes kind of experiment a little bit with these hard synths that kind of make the track a more minimum style production. But Julian Casablanca's voice, still incredible, and it projects you on this kind of surreal tour that the Strokes take you to, this almost nostalgic background that they're presenting with some of the other tracks on their latest album. I just think this shift tonally, or the shift production-wise, really works well for him, and I hope they experiment with a little bit more in the future, but also it reminds me of why I like The Void so much, because it's more of this style of production mix-ups and switches. It's the most distinct track on the last album. It's the one that stands out above all rest, and I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's not what I was expecting from the Strokes. I didn't really get it when I first heard it, but it really, really grew on me. The music video for this is just absolutely incredible. It's perfect at conveying the imagery that I think that this song speaks to you with. Just a very like space-like track, very void and voids-esque track. I just love it to pieces. It's not what the Strokes have been doing in the past, and for that, I think I like it even more.
Yeah.
At number 21, we have The Blasting Company with Candy. This is one of my favorite tracks of the year, personally. The Blasting Company did an absolutely incredible job with my favorite series, Over the Garden Wall on Cartoon Network. If you haven't watched it, give it a watch. Give the soundtrack a listen. It's really not as daunting as it seems. But Candy is just such a great standout single. It's very divided into two different parts. There's like kind of a folkier guitar strumming and two voices harmonizing, talking about basically how this guy and this girl Candy go down into this cellar. The music video explains it perfectly. During, I think, Civil War times, and there's like a battle. There's an army that's marching towards their house, and Candy's freaking out, and all the guy can do is like hold her while she cries. And you can hear the cannonball bust through the door, bust through the wall, and the whole song shifts into this like Battle Hymn of the Republic type track, like a very army marching kind of song, where he's talking about like if we all go join the war, we're just gonna have lines of tombstones on either side. Just the love and loss of war times is just conveyed so perfectly here in this track.
Yeah, at number 20, we have Slap Serif with Blue Train. Slap Serif sings, which is something he hasn't attempted before, over this very hypnotizing Plunderphonics beat, sampling so much. I think his vocals are very impressive because it combines elements of like a indie lo-fi track with Plunderphonics, which is really nice. I just think he gives a terrific performance across this thing. It's very hypnotizing, very psychedelic. It just works on a lot of levels, and I think it's one of my... it was a privilege to make a music video for this track, but it was also a privilege to work with Slap because I think he's an artist that isn't getting enough shine out there, and I think he's incredible with what he does.
Yeah, at number 19, we have Kero Bonito. It's Bug Snacks.
Is it bug or is it snack?
I love this track. Such a fun little surprise. Imagine watching the PlayStation 5 reveal, and then there's this weird game about catching bugs that are also food, and then hearing Kero Bonito over the top of it. They made an entire single for this game. I hear the game is incredible. I cannot wait to play it, but I just love how catchy and fun and whimsical this track is. Talking about bug snacks, talking about eating different foods and catching different foods, and the storyline of the game. It's just such a fun, infectious track, in all honesty.
Yeah. The game actually, I think a lot of things you could say about the game, I haven't played it, but I know a lot about the game. A lot of things you could say about the game narratively is pretty similar to what we talked about the last Kero Bonito, like full-length album, which is interesting, kind of like that darkness seeping
candy-coated on the top, then... Yeah. I'm very excited to play, and I love this track. It just got me even more hype for the game.
At number 18, we have West Side Gun with French Toast. West Side Gun and Wale, I didn't know they would pair so well, but they do. West Side Gun singing is amazing. Like, he tries. It's the same, we've talked about this before, but the little Yachty effect, like the amateurness and the heart that he brings to it really warms you up. It's not for everybody, but I think he's just the character he provides here is what I expect from West Side Gun. It's fun. He pokes fun at himself, but at the same time, there's this roughness to it and this braggadocio that works really nice. Wale's voice is great. I think the background vocals to this track is amazing. The Shawn Michaels exit where he's saying, all right, I'm not a singer, but I am the showstopper, I think is incredible.
I love it. Yeah, West Side Gun is so self-aware here. He tries his best at singing, and it kind of ends up being a cuter, kind of cutesy track for him, where he shows a little bit of his softer side, which I think he's kind of been afraid to do. But it's very endearing when he does so. I'm very happy that he decided to show that with us. Number 17, we have Darko the Super with Motorola. You're just a wooden boy.
Yeah, this is probably... We had to pick a track from one of the Darko's tracks. There's just so many this year that got stuck in our heads. We ended up going with Motorola. It's just bouncy, collectively catchy. I love the Tim Heidecker sample in the beginning and the end where he's trying to put on hip-hop. He's talking to the Uber driver or whatever, requesting him to change the radio station.
Yeah.
I think Darko just has a ton of character, a ton of great one-liners. It's kind of fundamentally what makes Darko's character shine the most is just his goofiness, him being kind of a pseudo-clown prince of hip-hop, like a certain Bismarcky. Except he doesn't beatbox. Maybe he should beatbox.
Yeah, I find this track to be the essence of what makes Darko great. Just great verses, funny one-liners, all about food and video games and movies and anything that he finds to be enjoyable he'll put on this track. Not only that, but I think he really hits his stride with singing. When we interviewed him earlier this year, he kind of talked about finding his sound as far as singing goes, his own like vocal style, and he just nails it, absolutely nails it on this track. Honestly, one of the quintessential Darko tracks, I think.
Yeah. At number 16, we have Celestaphone with Rewinders featuring The Mole and MC Paul Barman, another really left field track. Just so it combines basically all the elements that this album had, just the funkiness, the psychedelicness, and the weird abstract hip-hop performances. MC Paul Barman doing what he normally does, just being a complete oddball. Just a complete goofmeister with this performance. Celestaphone, who's usually a producer on this album and this track specifically, completely kills it. I just love the sample. It's so funky and groovy, and it fits all these verses perfectly. This track shouldn't work like it does because I don't think the verses should go with this beat, but it fits so perfectly. It's a complete rad moment off his last album. At number 15, we have Jay Electronica with All Praise is Due to Allah, featuring Jay-Z, but that's kind of
a given, really.
That's a given at this point. Jay Electronica and Jay-Z talk about mourning and death and how text messages and memories on their phone of people who have passed remind them that there's some sort of plan in the grander scheme of things, and they reflect kind of proudly on death, and even though it hurts, it's not going to be forever, and that there's other things to look forward in life. And I think it's just the most beautiful moment off Jay Electronica's album, one of the most hardest hitting. I think Jay-Z, like his character is like his persona doesn't stick out, and that's one of the great things about Jay Electronica's latest records. Jay-Z's persona doesn't stick out as much as it did on 444, but it works so seamlessly here. It's so emotional and beautiful, and it just touches mourning with just such a great light on here. It's just really perfect.
Yeah, I love Jay-Z as a background character. He knows when to kind of tone it down a little bit, which I think he's had a really hard time doing on any of his last projects, especially 444. But I'm really glad that he toned it down on these projects. It's not about him. It's about his voice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. At number 14, we have Royce the 5'9" with Overcomer featuring Westside Gunn, a track that I love this track, but I think the album in the character of Royce the 5'9" has ruined this track for me post-release. I think the instrumental and production from Royce and the sampling is incredible. The choir sample is absolutely majestic and beautiful. Westside Gunn opening, him having his own section, completely dominates the track, showcases why Westside Gunn is so fun and such a unique character and has a different style from the other two members of Griselda. Then Royce 5'9" comes on. He talks about conspiracy theories. He disses Yellow Wolf. Like there's a lot of interesting things in his verse.
There's a lot to dissect there, in all honesty.
and then some of the, I think, tracks on his album kind of take back from what he says on here. You kind of see it in a new light, which isn't really the best thing. I'm still not a huge fan of the person Royce the 5'9", but this track is absolutely incredible and one of the best of the year.
Yeah, it's really sad. Like, I wish I wouldn't have listened to the album because I think that it took away slightly from the track. But in all honesty, like, as a single, Overcomer is truly one of the best of the years. I love the bridge here, the production. Royce is going off like a crazy person at the end, of which he is.
Yeah.
But the conspiracy theories and things that he's just spouting off is such like nonsense. It's like listening to somebody that like comes to the grocery store and is trying to tell you how their Kroger Plus card is like tracking your government information or whatever. It's got a certain novelty to it, I think. Just an incredible track. Number 13, we got Charli XCX with Claws.
Yeah, Dylan Brady of 100 gecs produced this track, and this is the experimentation I want to see from Charli. It's hyper pop, it's avant pop, it's insane, crazy, showcases the personality of Charli in a nice way, how much of a weirdo she is. I love how loving to her partner she is, how happy she is on the track. I just think ridiculous moments get stuck in my head, like slip and slide up your thighs, juicy just like clementines. That line gets stuck in my head all the time. Yeah, it's crazy, has a crazy instrumental. It fits. It's kind of corny like a traditional pop song, but the elements of it, performance and production wise, really make it and put it into a next level of the next generation of pop.
At number 12, we have Anderson .Paak with Lockdown.
Yeah, I love this. This is probably my favorite music video of the year. We talked about other good ones. This is my personal favorite. Such a somber attitude, talking about Black Lives Matter protests that happened earlier this year, and how there was a lockdown put down, and Anderson .Paak got hit with it doesn't mention that, but in the music video he gets hit with I think tear gas, or it's a
rubber bullet, and just the emotion and the somberness, and talking not only about Black Lives Matter, but there's references to COVID and the pandemic and just the year in 2020 in general. I just think it fits the perfect attitude of what this year has been, and the sound this year has been is just depressing and somber, but there's beauty underneath, the beauty in humanity that one day maybe humanity will shine through the cracks is hope that I think this track really brings to the table that I really enjoy. Number 11, we have Moses Sumney with Me in 20 Years. This is the Whole Foods track that he talks about.
But Me in 20 Years is Moses Sumney reflecting on the type of person and the type of personality he will be in 20 years and how he matures as an individual, with all the beauty that was contained in his last album, just all the expression and emotion and just optimism that he brings is just completely incredible. Like, it's so heartbreaking sound wise, but I think Moses Sumney's personality makes it beautiful and worth listening, and it's easy to go through the heartbreak because of Moses Sumney's personality and his voice, and the fact that he's so able to escalate his emotions, and you really are able to empathize with him because of the tone he brings to the track.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the best tracks off of the second part of Gray. This is definitely the shining moment off of the part 2 here.
Yeah.
Getting into the big boys here. Number 10, Rico Nasty with iPhone.
Yeah.
In all
this
caps.
Is iPhone all caps. Usually it's the phone, the I's in lower caps, and then the phone is in all caps.
Not this time.
Not this time. Rico Nasty teaming with Dylan Brady of 100 gecs, who we talked about a minute ago, with Charli XCX's Claws. These two pair super well. I just think Rico Nasty going to the space she really hasn't. She reigns in these kind of like more, I guess, hardcore trap space. There's moments where she shines out. I think of like Rage. But normally she's more into moments like Big Titties, where it's very bouncy and collective, and her personality really screams through. On this, her saturated vocals on the hook, the auto-tune, is absolutely disgusting. I love it. Just like, it's pitched to be ear-wrenching, and I just think it builds up her personality perfectly. Like, I just think she's like shouting at me, and it's like amplified through a megaphone, and I'm hearing it through that. It's just one of these hype. It's just one of these moments that builds up this next generation of pop, and it's one of these moments where Rick and Nasty kind of separates herself from hip hop in a certain way, and I kind of like the presentation she's moving. Like, she's separating herself into more of like pop stardom, into more than like a hip hop diva, I guess.
Yeah. At number 9, we have Homeboy Sandman's Trauma. I don't find this track to be especially catchy, even with Quelle Chris on the production here, but this is definitely one of the hardest tracks to write and to perform on this entire list. Sandman finally opens up about a lot of the pain he's experienced from childhood on into his adult life, specifically like a lot of like sexual assault kind of things. And it's not an easy listen by any means, but I think it is well worth it. And I'm sure it was near impossible to write and perform for him. But like we've said on the previous reviews, like I think that this track feels extremely cathartic for Sandman to like finally come out and talk about a lot of this stuff. He says like the first time that his dad is hearing about a lot of these things is like on this song, and how like he loved his mom, but his mom was like the source of a lot of his like trauma. I can only wish him all the best on his journey to recovery. I just really think Sandman is such an interesting figure in hip hop, and for him to be able to still be opening up about these kind of things, he just turned 40. A lot of rappers like really don't make it to 40, especially the way that we've seen some of the like rapper deaths in 2020. It's just been a real shame, but I only wish him the best. I really enjoyed this track.
Yeah, a lot of rappers not even like live to 40, like they don't mature to 40, like if that makes sense. Like they don't, like they'll get to 40 and then they'll stop having ideas and showing emotion. Like look at Eminem, he's just a goofball now. But like Homeboy Sandman in his older days has found a way to reinvent himself character-wise, and this was the beginning stages of what made his last album so incredible, is just finally getting to dissect certain elements of Homeboy Sandman and his personality and discover new things about him that you haven't heard before, and that's what makes this track great. Even though there's so much pain and drama involved with it, I think Homeboy Sandman does find a way to relate to the audience on a new level he hasn't before.
Yeah. At number 8, we have Dorian Electra with My Agenda featuring Village People and Pussy Riot. I was looking at our top like 10 tracks, and there are so many like weird collaborations, and this is just one of the first here. I think being counterculture in music in 2020 is arguably easier today than it ever has been. But in the past, like, it definitely has not always been. And that's why I think, like, this collaboration is so hard-hitting. Taking, like, this classic disco group, Village People, and this Russian feminist punk band who gets into a lot of trouble a lot is Pussy Riot. It just feels so momentous. It's such a catchy melody, a lot of like funny, hard-hitting lyrics. The Village People feature, they're not even in the same key as Dorian Electra, but it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter at all. I think it only boosts the ability of all three parties here, and the like marrying of these groups just shows like how far that we've come of pushing the envelope in music, personally.
Yeah, just it's just so fucking strange, and it works. Village People's performance is the thing that gets stuck in my head most. Dorian Electra with the saturatedness, the way Pussy Riot is built into the middle, and then you come out it and Village People are just screaming at you. Just like their chorus blows you away.
Yes.
It's just excellent. I can't talk about it. It's one of my favorite strange features this year, but one I like even more. Number 7, Gorillaz, The Pink Phantom featuring Elton John and Black, Six Lack. Six Lack is what I'm going to call him because that's funnier. Yeah, Gorillaz, they put out so many good singles this year. It was hard to pick. You could have literally put anything off Song Machine on here, any single off Song Machine on here, and it would have fit, but man, I listen to this one the most. It's the one I had most fun with. It's basically the end of a summer romance, and all three parties reflecting on their romance that has come concluded at the end of the summer, and all the good times and the bad times they've had throughout, and how they feel like they're just a phantom at this point. They're just a ghost. You get 3 different versions of melancholy on here. You get kind of the trap saturated auto-tune from Black. You get Elton John's flamboyant, like, hollowness, and then you get Damon's, like, traditional, just mopey. And it just works so seamlessly. It's the pianos on it are so amazing. Like, these artists should not connect in any way or form. even Elton John and Damon, I don't think that would have worked, but
No.
it just does. And Six Black and Elton John's, like, passing off at the end of lines is just, it's great, and it fits so well, and it just shouldn't.
Yeah, I think Damon is a pretty neutral vocalist, like he always kind of has been. But I love the way that Black ties down Elton John's like soaring vocals. Like his very like subdued auto-tune kind of keeps him grounded, and I love that works so well. When they all three sing at the same time over this like very synthy instrumental, it is an incredible thing to listen to. I think this more than makes up from some of the missteps that Gorillaz have had in the past, and I thought the whole album, you know, really shows that they're back on their game.
Yeah. Number 6, The Avalanches, We Will Always Love You, featuring Blood Orange. One of the first songs I knew I loved this year. Just listened to it, found out early in the morning Avalanches released a track, listened to it, and just swept away by the Roaches sample that I think is performed by a children's choir on here. The Blood Orange feature, it's so ethereal, so otherworldly, it's very teary, just absolutely beautiful. Avalanches find a way to get the same effect they would with Plunderphonics, but this time using less sampling and more electronic production, and it works perfectly. Like, it's the peak of emotion. Blood Orange is one of those artists that you could just empathize with, very similar to Moses Sumney. It's just like he just dictates that emotion and just bleeds out of him, and on this track it works for me. It just fantastically flows, and it's ethereal, and it's completely heart-wrenching.
Yeah, I think Hammond's song by itself is a very emotional song anyway. I love that track to pieces, but Blood Orange just heightens that with the added somberness on this track. Just an incredible use of sample here. They didn't do it a whole lot on this last album, but Avalanches know how to pick a good sample and use it to its fullest extent.
At number 5, we have Dinner Party with Freeze Tag featuring Felix.
Yeah, this is such a simplistic song, but with such an incredibly powerful message. It's very jazz-inspired, soul-inspired. It takes a pretty, relatively simple melody and simple verse and just expands on it throughout the whole track. It repeats the same verse over and over. Felix just does an incredible job of delivering these very potent lyrics about a black man who has been stopped by the police, and he's being, afraid of his life, afraid of losing his life, and he tries to follow orders to the best of his ability. But all the while, like, you hear this inner monologue about, like, how did I end up in this situation? Like, I'm tired of running. I'm tired of fighting. Like, I just want to let things be peaceful for a while, but, like, the police are just perpetuating that situation and making it more and more difficult for him. It's so simple, yet so beautiful, and it's extremely timely. It came out at the perfect time as well.
Yeah. I'm looking at our last 4. I just realized all of these last 4 are pre-quarantine tracks.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if that. I don't know if that's their nostalgia for the way the world used to be, but I don't know. I still think these are the 4 best tracks of the year, nonetheless. Yes. Number 4, we have Quelly Chris and Chris Keys with Sudden Death, a track that is about how life's fleeting and you never know when it's going to end, and that really played out for the rest of the year, very sadly in a varied bunch of ways. You became very appreciative of life. Quelly Chris's vocals on this, he's not rapping, he's singing, and it's pitched, and it works in this very amazing high-pitched soul way. Chris Keys with the production on here, the amazing piano balladry that's being presented on here, the background vocals on here is absolutely incredible. I believe that's Chris. But these two pair up so well in this very simplistic track that just talks about how life's fleeting and you gotta appreciate every moment of it. You don't know when it's gonna end. And that was really a theme that's stayed true throughout the rest of the year, and it really almost grew on me the rest of the year because I love this track to begin with, but I think it just matured so nicely throughout the year and marinated in such a way that it has more meaning now than it initially did.
Yeah, I just find it to be such a great feel-good track, even though the lyrics necessarily like aren't like that. I love that the whole of the lyrics don't really take up that much time, and how the rest of it is just this. It just lets it play out with Quelle just kind of scat singing and doing ad libs over the top of this constantly moving piano. Just such a great track. Definitely a departure from what Quelle typically does with his like very jumbled beats and witty wordplay, but I just find this to be such a great departure from that as well. Yeah. Number 3, we've got Mac Miller with Good News.
Yeah, this is kind of the perfection of Mac Miller. After his passing, I was really sad that we didn't really get to see more played on the ideas and songwriting that was on Circles. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, we get an announcement, Circles, or I meant Swimming, not Circles. But we got an announcement that Circles is coming out. A whole entire new album for Mac, posthumous release from him, and John Brion curated it. He also helped Mac when he was still alive on the production. This is just the perfection of Mac's songwriting ability and him able to dictate what he's going through at the time, and especially dictate what he was going through in some of his final days and some of his final months leading up to his unfortunate demise. You just get put in his headspace of where he was, how people only want to hear good news, how people only want to see you happy. They don't want to deal with you when you're depressed, or they don't want to have to deal with you with the negative aspects. And it's just that really has just sunk with me the entire year. Just like that style and performance from Mac, just like the despair he brings on, the emotion he brings out, just really sticks with me, and it was unavoidable for the rest of the year just because the heart and soul put into the track was something greater than I've ever seen before in a certain extent. Just like the story that was played out with Mac's life, the narrative that was built, almost have this track coming out past his passing, I think wouldn't really have mattered even if this track came out today and Mac was still alive. I think Mac's performance and the energy he brings to it outweighs the narrative that the song brings when you add in his demise.
All right, at number 2, we have RMR with Rascal. This country meets rap.
It's not RMR. Let's stop the meme. It's Rumor.
It's Rumor.
I really don't like that name. I like RMR better, even if it doesn't mean anything.
RMR is so much better. But whatever, he chose it, not me. Yeah. Rumor with Rascal, yeah. Country meets rap has kind of been a pretty hot topic over the last year or so, especially with the rise of like Lil Nas X and the hit song Old Town Road. Everybody knows it. But I feel like Rumor takes this idea to the next logical level with Rascal, which is literally just like a word-for-word parody of the classic Rascal Flatts track, Bless the Broken Road. But it's not even like
a parody. It's just
No, I wouldn't even call it a parody. Yeah. It's just like a reworking, I guess. Yeah. But now the whole song takes on this very cold and calculating personality of a drug dealer, as Rumor basically sings about his come up from the streets to like fantastic wealth. When this came out, I just listened to it over and over and over, just in disbelief that a track like this could ever be made and put out like on a streaming service. To be honest, just an incredible like reworking of what country music is and should be, which I think has been like we said, a pretty hot debate, I guess, about what country is and should be. Yeah. I just love this track, honestly.
Yeah, it's essentially, while there's darker themes to it, the optimism that shines of Rumor telling you anyone can do this and that anyone can come out of these dark situations. And I think the themes of just anti-police and just crime and escaping these toxic situations, Rumor really puts a shine of light into it. And it's not just the lyricism that excels. Like, Rumor's voice is amazing. Like, I don't know, he's incredible. Like, you see some of his fourth quarter melody, like, he's so versatile what he can do. Like, you look at his cover or his remix of that Drake track that's on fourth quarter compared to the Google Dolls cover, or reworking pretty similar to this track as well. And just like, he's so able to again, I'm going to use this metaphor again, but able to bleed out emotion in the way he is, and it's just incredible. And that's one of the things that made this track so special, was just because it was perfect timing in terms of voice and lyricism and message. Like, they all laid out into one thing where it fits so perfectly that this strange personality comes out of the blue, out of nowhere, similar to Lil Nas X last year, but does something completely different. Like, the only comparison you can make to Lil Nas X is that this is biting off country. But
I feel like it's just the next like level of doing this.
Yeah.
Hip hop meets country, but he just goes whole hog into it.
Yeah, yeah. But like creatively, I think it's way stronger than Lil Nas X's Old Town Road. And other than that, other than like the next level of country, it really isn't anything else. Like, this is pretty much just a country track at this point. Like, there's nothing else to it. The themes and lyricism are different from more contemporary country, but the personality, the production is still there. The influence of Rascal Flatts is there. Yeah, I just think this is an incredible track. Like, it doesn't make sense how it got here, but I'm completely glad. And I hope Rumor, he takes this styling and does it without, I guess, a reworking old track. Because, like, while I enjoyed the fourth quarter medley, I hope there's more in his career that is in this style, but isn't biting off another track, or at least reworking another track.
Yeah. All right, are you ready for the big one?
The big one.
Number one. Our number one track of the year, the best track of 2020, is 100 gecs with the Ringtone remix featuring Charli XCX, Rico Nasty, and KKB. Ringtone remix is the absolute definition of hyper pop. Like, if somebody asks you what the genre means, and we've heard that term being thrown around a lot, especially this year, I think this is what you could easily show them. These leading ladies here, Rico Nasty and Charli and Sarah Bonito, just take a pretty bare bones track from last year, Ringtone off of the 1000 gecs original project, and they just beef it up to its full potential. Charli XCX on this incredibly lively hook over this very glitchy and weird kind of beat. The spoken word section from KKB, I love the different sound effects that they use, from a Casio keyboard, the dog and the cell phone ringing. This very biting rap verse from Rico Nasty, who I think is probably appears on this list the most times out of anybody else this year. I just realized that. Just doing an incredible job on her verse. But of course, I think that the remixers or the features job was made a lot easier thanks to Dylan Brady and Laura Les. They are just uncanny ability to write a catchy melody. Ringtone was already very catchy when it came out to begin with, even though it was kind of minimalist. But now, with all these added features and the definitely beefed up sound, I think it reaches its full potential. It's just an incredible meeting of all these out there left field artists, and creates honestly one of the best pop songs of the year.
Yeah, I love the way the track swells when Rico Nasty shows up, giving her this almost rock star entrance, which I think is really cool. I love Charli on the vocals. I love how Dylan shows up for a second on the vocals, but then it's hey Charli, can you do this? I don't want to do this. I think it's really funny. I just think this is just what a remix should be. It should improve on the original, or at least give you a completely different experience that the original did. And this does such a great job that I don't even think you need the original at this point, because this is a completely better and more finished track.
Yes.
Anything that was on the original is here, but amped up to 11 with a completely new versatile sound and completely fully loaded with features and performances and fun and atmosphere and dynamics. Yeah, it's just an amazing pop tune. The best pop tune of the year. And not only the best pop tune, the best song of the year. I don't know what else would top it. I think it's absolutely incredible.
That's it. That's our list.
That's
the top 65 songs of the year. according to the Anthony and Todd
show, which you
the
can
only
say
music review show that you should be watching.
Yeah, if you watch any others, we're telling your mom on you, and you're gonna be grounded.
Haha.
Yeah, this has been a long year. We're one halfway done with the list. So next is best albums. There's at least gonna be at least two albums.
There's at least, yeah.
Two, because then that's not a list, it's just an item. Until next time, guys, I'm Vincent.
I'm Trevor.
And see ya, boyos.
Bye, everybody.